Let's go up to New York and cover the mobs in the 1950s. Vincent Squillante was a member of the Gambino crime family, and he was called in the newspapers anyway the king of the garbage rackets. He and his brother Nunzio really had it in a stranglehold, the garbage collecting industry, and they were brutal. They would murder people who held out. Garbage company owners. They'd beat people with tire irons. I mean, they were just not them, but their minions. They were nasty, mean. The thing is, Vincent Squillante stood just barely 5'2". He weighed 130 pounds, a little teeny guy. And Nunzio wasn't a lot bigger. Both of these guys were supposed to have been godsons to the big boss, Albert Anastasia. And maybe. So Joe Valachi claims that the Squillantes participated in the slaying of Anastasia's underboss, probably on Anastasia's orders. In fact, I'm sure from Anastasia's orders. A guy named Frank Scalise. After the murder, Scalise's brother Joe was running around talking about getting revenge. Nobody wanted that. So he went into hiding for a while. But when he came out, the Squillantes invited him over. This is in September of 1957. They invited him over to his house for a meal, talked things through. And when he arrived, they murdered him. And they dismembered his body, and they loaded the remains into one of the garbage trucks and dumped him God knows where. In 1960, Squillante was indicted on extortion charges. The Gambino bosses decided it was just time for him to go. They didn't take out his brother Nunzio, who lived up until 1990, I think. But they felt that Squillante was a rat, for one thing. They didn't think he was tough enough to hold out in a prison term because they were going to put him in prison. Supposedly, they put him out of his mercy, is the way they put it. And on September 23rd, in 1960, he disappeared. The last place he was seen was around 2 a.m. driving through the Bronx in his brother-in-law's car. They never found the body. The problem was Squillante he had outlived his time. He came into the mobs in the 1920s during Prohibition. It was an open market, 20s, 1930s, 1940s. But in the 1950s, early 1960s, things had changed dramatically. The Kefauver Committee had blown a hole in organized crime. Bobby Kennedy in 1958, 59, 60 was at it with the McClellan Committee. And he had all that information gleaned from the Kefauver Committee. So he knew where to go, where he knew where the bodies were, and he was bringing back guys down left and right. Nobody wanted a problem, and it's the problem with these loud gangsters is they make the government look inefficient, like they're not doing anything, so they're not going to have that. The Justice Department is a half a block long in Washington, D.C. They're just not going to allow these guys to strut around and be bad guys. Just not going to do it. And sooner or later, they're going to go down. And that was the case with Scalise. If you are interested, if you go to my writer's site and look up the words the Scalises of Connecticut, I wrote a long article there, and I've written it out here at the end of this thing, so you can just copy and paste that. All right. It's a good article.